I'd like to welcome you all to the 2021 Economic Forum. My name is Sarah Bales. I'm the Executive Director of the Lake County Development Council. Before we get started, I would just like to take a moment for us all to look around the room. Give a smile or a wave to somebody you have not seen in this last year. We are pretty excited to be in person today. Last year we had Dr. Ted virtually. I believe you were in Alaska, actually. Not even in Texas. He was in Alaska, and we were sitting in the back dining room of Soul in downtown Willoughby, but in front of a laptop. So it's pretty cool to be in person today with everyone in the room, so thank you for being here. With that being said, we have two fabulous speakers. Tim Cahill, our chair event, will present them, but I'd like to thank you both for being here today. A few things before we get started. You may notice that the Lake County Development Council has a new look and a new brand. Like so many of us in 2020, we were faced with the challenging questions of what's our mission, where are we going from here, and being an organization who hosts 9 in-person luncheons and 2 large events during a pandemic, we were kind of at a halt. So we reconvened, we had a lot of virtual board meetings, and we worked with a local digital marketing company to do a new rebrand. If you're not familiar with the Lake County Development Council, we were founded in 1958. That was 63 years ago. We were one of the founding organizations who helped found the Chambers of Commerce, the Lake County Visitors Bureau, and we've always been a connecting piece for qualified persons and appropriate organizations to network and focus on the growth of the community. We are now a helping hand in raising awareness and promoting economic development in Lake County, hence an event like today. The goal in our new brand is to help us stand out from what we once were and welcome this new era of the workforce that we are all entering. I would like to thank the Lake County Commissioners for their recognition of our new brand, and at this time I would like to offer all of our elected officials to stand. Before I hand it off to our event chair, Tim Cahill, I would like to thank my board of trustees. It has been such a pleasure to work with you all. The Lake County Development Council and Lake County as a whole is a better place with all of you for what you do. With that being said, I'd like to welcome my board members to stand. On behalf of the Lake County Development Council, I thank you all for joining us this morning. I welcome you to a great program. We are very excited to have our 2 speakers, and I will pass it off to Tim Cahill.
Thanks, Sarah. It's great to see you all here. As Sarah mentioned, again, a lot of smiling faces. 23 years, and as Sarah mentioned, we were able to keep the streak going with a virtual event last year, thanks to Dr. Ted and many others. So it's just fantastic. I also want to thank Marty LaMalfa for all of his help. Marty's here helping out, even moving dishes right now, but to help make the first in-person event that we've been able to put together, and he did a lot to help us do that. So thank you so much, Marty. Also joining us today are students from a number of our teaching institutions. Today we have students representing Harvey, Kirtland, and Fairport Harbor High Schools. We have students from the Northern Career Institute, the Lakeshore Compact, Auburn Career Center, Lakeland, and Lake Erie College. All in the back there, can you give us a wave, and thank you for being here. As usual, we'll have a Q&A after the 2 speakers have given their formal presentations. On your tables, you'll see some pens and some paper, so please jot down any questions you might have along the way, and we'll have our board president, Tim Flenner, will come up after and present the questions. Before formally introducing our first speaker, I'd like to thank the people who have made this event possible, and that's all of our sponsors. We have 30-plus sponsors who have contributed to the Lake County Development Council for this event, and it goes well beyond this event because, as I've mentioned before, this event is a fundraiser for us, and it really generates the majority of the money for our operating budget during the year. I mean, we don't have a huge budget, but we have one and we need one, and you help us to continue to do the things that we do each year in our community. So thanks so much, and please look in your programs. You'll see all the sponsors in the program there. We've got them all listed for you. So thank you, and thank all the sponsors. I want to offer a special thanks to our platinum sponsors. Let me just list them off now. They are Erie Bank, Team Neo, Jobs Ohio, Chase Bank, Universal Metal Products, Blackbird, Lakeland Construction Group, Cardinal Credit Union, Freedon, Lakeland Community College, Maloney Novotny, and MECO. Again, thank you all so much. And finally, a big thanks to Lake Health, who for the second year in a row is our presenting sponsor. You see Lake Health everywhere in the county helping, and it's great to have a partner like Lake Health continuing to do the things they do. So thank you, Lake Health. I'd like to thank just one other group of people. That's the Economic Forum Committee. We work a number of months to put this program together, and if any of you have put together or worked on an event such as this, as you get involved, you realize there's a whole lot of details that go into it that need to all kind of come together, so you hope you have the type of event that you want to have. And this group has done a fantastic job, not only this year, but also this group for the last 2 or 3 years have been together working on this, and I'd like to call them out. Please stand. Liz Dunlop from First Meridian Title. Greg Sanders from the Lakeland Foundation. Dean Sangus from Sank Properties. Tim Flenner from Erie Bank. And our Executive Director, Sarah Bales with 440 Marketing. Thank you all. Well, as you know, being an economic forum, we always have our economist as our keynote speaker. And the second part of our presentation has always been either a theme speaker or, in many cases, an award presentation. You may remember last year we honored the 2020's Community Impact Heroes as we all struggled through and worked together through a very difficult year, and which is kind of moving on in a little bit to this year as well. But this year we again have a theme speaker. And we're going to have her lead things off today. We've often had Dr. Ted, but our theme speaker is going to lead things off for us. I think she's chosen a terrific theme that living here in Lake County we can all relate to and be inspired by. And that theme is the role of quality of life initiatives in Lake County's economic development, bringing those two things together. And she should know a little bit about that with her active roles in both Lakeland and the Metro Parks. She knows quite a bit about the topic. She certainly is no stranger to almost all of you in the room here, and if you know her, you definitely love her. Dr. Gretchen Skok Disanto. Gretchen currently serves as an Associate Professor of Business Management and is the Entrepreneurship Center Director at Lakeland Community College. In addition, she's a business advisor for the Ohio Small Business Development Center at Lakeland. Previously at Lakeland, she served as the director of the Center for Business and Industry and the director of the Ohio Enterprise Network. Prior to coming to Lakeland, she held economic development roles at the City of Painesville and the Lake County Economic Development Center. Gretchen also serves as Park Board Commissioner for Lake Metro Parks and sits on numerous volunteer committees for the Willoughby Western Lake County Chamber of Commerce. She also serves on Lake County's Workforce Development Board, a very important board for our workforce in Lake County. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Classics from Wesley College, a Master's in Nonprofit Management from Case Western Reserve, a Master's in Urban Studies from Cleveland State University, and a Doctorate in Business Management from Liberty University. And somehow she managed to find a husband and raise a family as well. So Gretchen is born and raised in Concord, and she still lives on her family farm with her husband Dino and their 2 children. And it's my distinct pleasure to welcome Gretchen Skok Disanto.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for the warm welcome. Let's get my slide deck up here. So it's my pleasure to speak to you this morning about the role of quality of life initiatives in our economic development. So as you heard in my introduction, I was born and raised here in Lake County. I still live in the house that I grew up in. And if you're thinking that's a little pathetic, well, it probably is. But we own a little piece of heaven out in Concord. It's a wonderful place to raise a family. Speaking of family, my number 1 role in life is as a mom and also as my husband's boss. The second role I play in life, I'm very passionate about, is being an economic developer here in Lake County. And I've done that since 1998, pretty much right after I got out of college. For the last 6 years, I've taught full-time at Lakeland, and I still consider myself to be an economic developer in that role because I teach all the college's entrepreneurship classes. So I've had many students in the last 6 years start their own businesses, and you may not know this, but 97% of Lakeland students stay here in our community after they graduate. So for years to come, I expect that my students are going to be creating businesses here in our community, helping us grow. I'm also a conservationist, and you might think to yourself, well, that's a little bit of an oxymoron. She's an economic developer conservationist. I do not consider the 2 things to be mutually exclusive. My experience tells me that there's actually a synergy between the 2, and I will talk about that in a few moments. So it's a really big day for me today, and before I tell you why, I have a couple of questions I want to ask all of you. First question, if you could please raise your hand if you had a favorite work-from-home outfit during COVID. And admittedly, you may have worn this too much. Okay, only a couple brave people willing to admit it. Okay, that's fine. Second question, okay, think back to your college days. Did you have a college professor, or at least 1 or 2, that kind of marched to the beat of their own drum? They were a little bit different. Do you remember those folks? Okay, there's definitely a lot more hands there. Okay, we all had those folks. So what do you do when you blend the 2? Okay, you come up with the COVID nutty professor. But it is a big day today, guys, because I'm out of my pajamas. So let's talk about economic development. There are many of you in the room here who work in this. Okay, and you're very familiar with the strategies of economic development. This is our core. This is how we build wealth in our community. We do that by retaining the businesses we already have. We do it by helping them expand and grow. We do it by attracting new businesses, which is probably the hardest part of this. And we also do it by creating new businesses here in our community. Now, in order to successfully accomplish those 4 strategies, it's critically important as a community that we consistently support and strengthen what's referred to as our community capitals. And what are those? So those are the assets from which we receive benefits as a community, and we rely upon these for our continued existence. So I want to quickly go through these 7. These are our community capitals. So it starts with our natural environment. These are our natural resources. Okay, and our environment. In addition, our financial capital, so our income, our wealth, our ability to access capital and credit and investment. We also have our political capital, so all of us being included and having a voice in our government. We also have our built capital, so our housing stock, our transportation, our infrastructure, our utilities. In addition, we have our social capital, so all of us gathered here today, our professional networks, our leaders, our social networks. We also have our cultural capital, so our traditions, our history, our values here in our community. And finally, we have our human capital. We all represent the best of that. Okay, our education, our creativity, our innovation, our diversity. And this past summer, tried doing this, tried going through COVID and also writing a dissertation, hence why I never left my bathrobe, okay? So I wrapped up my dissertation this summer, and I studied, I'm not going to get into the details, but I created a leadership model. And I interviewed a number of Lake County leaders and business owners. And a clear theme that came across in my research was this importance of quality of life. So I'd like to read to you one of the quotes that I got from one of those business leaders, and I'm sorry that person is going to remain anonymous because I did a confidential study. But the quote is, "It's incredibly important to my organization that this is a nice, strong, and vibrant community. We want Lake County to be attractive. Attracting talent is brutal these days. So if we're in an area that's attractive to people, one that offers and cares about a high quality of life, it's easier for us to attract and retain those good employees who are critical to business success." So when we're talking about quality of life, there are numerous quality of life indicators, okay? You can measure this. And they actually directly map to those community capitals. So let me pull a couple of those out. Starting with our natural environment. The indicators there for quality of life are our environment and also our access to recreation, okay, and leisure opportunities. Then when it comes to our financial capital, here we're talking about employment opportunities in our community. We're talking about our income and our wealth. When it comes to our human capital, here we're talking about our educational attainment, okay, and our mental and physical health. So my main theme this morning to talk to you about is access. What are we doing to provide the greatest amount of access to this richer, better quality of life? Okay, and when we can do that, then this is a place that everybody wants to call home, and we want to work here. And most importantly, people want to invest here. So businesses want to move here, they want to expand here, they want to start here. So I'm very privileged in my career, in my life, to work for an organization and also volunteer for an organization that takes this very seriously. So we may have different missions between the Metro Parks and Lakeland, but we have the same commitment to improving that quality of life here in our community. So I want to first talk a little bit and put my Lakeland hat on and talk a little bit about Lakeland. So we deal in this space, you know, the capital of our human capital. It's all about education and skills and providing the greatest access to high quality education that builds skills, that ensures that our graduates are getting paid sustainable wages, okay? So that feeds into our financial capital here in the community. I teach a couple times a year a class called Intro to Entrepreneurship, and I have my students go out and do a project called the Bug Project. Okay, what they're supposed to do, and I've got some of my students here in the back, they just recently did this. What they're supposed to do is go out and list 50 things that bug them, okay, 50 problems, okay, that they encounter in a week. And what we do is they come back to class, and we debrief it, and we figure out businesses that can solve those problems, because that's essentially what entrepreneurs do, right? They find a problem, they find a solution to that problem, and they sell it to the world. Just a little bit more complicated than that, but we get into that in class. So this is a very impactful exercise to me. First and foremost, because it's really funny what they come back with. So some of the funny things, and I won't read them all off, but number one, calculus, what is the point? Okay, children, a little irony there. Not getting my way, that bugs all of us, right? One Pringle left in the container, ouch. And my favorite, my mom, born to bug. Okay, that's what all of us mothers do, right? We bug our kids to success. Now, we also get some very troubling responses. Being broke all the time, eating unhealthy food because it's cheap and all I can afford, always driving on almost empty, finding childcare I can trust and afford, not having a home, working in a dead-end job, and feeling like I'm not good enough. So these are all responses that I've received numerous times over the last couple of years teaching this class. If somewhere along the way you may have been asked the question, what keeps you up at night? This is what keeps me up at night. And it's also what motivates me to do what I do. I'm passionate about what I do because I know that I'm making a small difference in correcting this problem. And Lakeland is making a huge difference in correcting this problem. So I want to tell you about one of our success stories, and we have thousands of these. This is a student of mine, Stacy Fields. So a number of years ago, Stacy was 8 months pregnant, and she was laid off from her position that she absolutely loved, and eventually found herself to be homeless. So when looking for a new job, everybody said, well, you have to have a degree. And she didn't have a degree. So she came back to Lakeland through a program called Single Mothers Achieving Real Triumph out of our Women's Center. And she ended up getting a job on campus working in our career services department. She graduated a couple years ago with an AAB in HR and management, and she now works at a local manufacturing company as a valued office and HR administrator. So how do we do this? How do we have the success? It's all around a culture of a commitment to student success and support. Some examples of that, we have a new program at Lakeland called Stay Anchored. And what this is people like me, professors, and also staff members across the campus are partnered with a number of students. So I'm partnered with 26 business management students this semester, and I periodically reach out to them and help keep them on track. Because our students have a lot of challenges and they need a little help to get across that finish line. So professors like me are there to help them do that. We also have our Lakeland Foundation, and Greg Sanders is here. Greg does a phenomenal job. He raises a lot of money for us, and that money goes directly to our students who need that money to graduate. We also have a new scholarship for the Begin the Conversation, which is a diversity and initiative here in the county led by a number of our leaders. And that is supporting scholarships for minority students who want to come to Lakeland. We also offer no-cost tutoring and special programs out of our men and women's centers, and a food bank and emergency needs grants for our students. So I'm really happy to report that we're winning some awards based on all the hard work we're doing. So in 2020, we were recognized by the Chronicle of Higher Education as the number 2 two-year public college in the U.S. for students reaching educational goals. Also, another award we won from College Consensus, which is a college ratings website, is that we were ranked not number 1, but number 36 out of 50 in the U.S., and only one of 2 in Ohio, which is very interesting. And how they ranked us was according to costs. So we are one of the lowest costs in the state, along with reputation, and lastly, success. So our graduate pay, which was actually according to payscale.com data. So this is the best day of the year at Lakeland, our graduation. How many of you have been to a place where absolutely everybody is happy? Now, you might think to yourself, that's Disney. Trust me, it isn't. There's lots of crying babies and moms like me that almost had a freak out. Okay, but at Lakeland, this is the best day of the year. Everybody is happy. We did an economic study a couple years ago, and we found that for every dollar that a student invests in Lakeland, they earn almost $5 in lifetime earnings. Our students will earn over a lifetime over $400,000 more than high school graduates alone, and they'll be 61% more likely to be employed. And then finally, 96% of our graduates go on to either work or also pursue their education. And a lot of them pursue their education further at Lakeland at our Holden University Center, which offers bachelor's and master's degrees. So how does this all connect to what businesses need? And businesses need skilled employees, right? So Ohio puts out a job outlook, and these are numbers through 2028. So for new jobs, we're looking at 138,000 in the state. Annual openings around 685,000 a year. Greatest increase, this is going to surprise nobody, it's in healthcare, right? And then when it comes to the education needed for these jobs, 75% of net job growth is anticipated from occupations that require some type of post-secondary. So we're talking about maybe certificates, could be associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, et cetera. So that education is so necessary. And when you look at the state of Ohio numbers when it comes to what types of occupations are going to be added in our economy, healthcare is right at the top. Again, no surprise. Food prep and serving, personal care management, transportation, construction, and also computer and mathematical occupations. So I'm happy to report that Lakeland is prepared for today and the future. Thanks to the support of Lake County residents, we were able to expand our health technologies building a few years ago and add extra healthcare, high-demand healthcare programs. We were able to expand our enrollment capacity there, and we have new IT programs that are meeting business needs. When it comes to manufacturing, so that was not touched on with those high growth jobs in the state of Ohio. But we know that's incredibly important here in our community. It's 30% of our economy here. So we've made a significant investment in our engineering programs. We recently completed a Department of Labor grant that allowed us to increase our welding capacity by 78%. We've tripled our welding lab space. We're halfway through a $4 million investment in new equipment in manufacturing and also in space improvements. And we're very happy, I see Roger and Allison here from AWT. We're very happy to partner with them on their Transformation Training Center. And then lastly, I want to call out my soul sister, Kathy Walsh from the Small Business Development Center. We've had quite a year at the Small Business Development Center. We were busy because of COVID, and we were able to help 588 businesses, a lot with the PPP loans and the EIDL loans. We helped 15 businesses start, and we helped businesses secure over $19 million in loans. So now I want to put on my second hat for like the last 6 minutes here, make sure I keep on track, and talk about our natural capital. So when it comes to indicators here for quality of life, we're talking about our access to recreation and leisure opportunities here in the county. So hopefully you've all at some point been able to come out to a Lake Metro Park. Perhaps you took your hand at fishing or archery, sailing, birding, sledding, cross-country skiing, running, not for me. Paddleboarding, anybody says it's too hard, this guy's doing it with a baby, so you can definitely do it. Golf, snowshoeing, camping, okay, hiking, walking with your sweetie, biking. I just hope that you've experienced some joy here in your metro parks because they're absolutely gorgeous. And I was honored to be selected by Judge Mark Bartolotta about 8 years ago to sit on the board and serve our community in this way. And when I look at those last 8 years, what have we done? What have we focused on? It's all been about access. How are we providing you greater access to the natural resources here in Lake County? So how have we done that? Well, we've added 8 new parks. If you haven't been out to Lake Erie Bluffs, you have to head there. So this is a picture of the bluffs here on the left, and a new stairway that gets down to a beautiful beach there. We also extended our hours. So it used to be at the parks that we were only open from dawn to dusk. Well, what happens in February when we have like 6 hours of daylight, right? You couldn't go to your parks. So we've extended hours from most parks, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. This is actually a picture of a lighted trail that we have out at Chapin Forest off of Hobart Road. Check it out. When I notice it's starting to get darker earlier and earlier, so when winter comes, make sure you head out there. And we've also, despite COVID, we were able to make our huge family events happen. Now, this is really important for a lot of families, right? This is a tradition in my family. We go out each and every year. We head to Holiday Lights and to the Halloween hay rides. And COVID, we just, what are we going to do? So we did drive-thrus. We're doing those again this year, and thousands of families are able to enjoy that and increase their quality of life. We have new creative programming, so our farm-to-table farm park dinners are great. Our ice festival, again, if you're looking for something to do in January where there's nothing to do, head out to the farm park for that. Those of you with younger kids, hopefully you've been out to these places. I mean, we got to get our kids into the dirt. We have to get them away from the technology, right? And these are 2 great improvements in the Metro Park. So our 2 natural play areas for children, nature play and adventure play. Make sure if you have kids, get out to those places. It's a whole lot of fun. We also have new beautiful overlooks. So our flagship there is our tower out at Lake Erie Bluffs, and a new overlook which is currently being constructed at Girdle Road Reservation, which overlooks, that's Big Creek. That should be done here in a couple weeks. That's the picture on the right. We also added 11 miles of new trails. So for you hikers out there, we now have a total of around 60 miles of trails in the Metro Parks. We've also improved our access for seniors and those with mobility impairments. So we bought a number of these golf carts that can take those folks further into the woods that they may have not able to access previously. And we also created a new boardwalk at the Fairport Beach. Now, we also have camping sites. Now, personally, my idea of camping is room service and a minibar. So I haven't frequented these, but these are really, really popular. Okay, there's one campsite that it books almost immediately for the season out at Lake Erie Bluffs. It's absolutely gorgeous, overlooks the lake. So any campers out there, if you didn't realize it, we are now open for business for camping. Now, my personal favorite here, okay, with what we've done in the last 8 years, is we have 6 new flush restrooms. Now, this is really important. I speak for all you ladies out there. We want flush restrooms, okay? And I'm in 7th heaven because we are building our 7th at Jordan Creek Park. That should be done here in the next month or so. So not everybody is happy about all these improvements. This is my daughter, Sienna. She's the #1 unhappy Lake County resident. She says, if I'm going to die, if you make me go on one more forced death by mosquito march. So you may not know this, but it used to be you couldn't go off path at the metro parks. You literally have to stay on the path. I teach entrepreneurship. You don't stay on the path. No, we go off the path, right? So those rules are changed. You can go anywhere in the Lake Metro Parks. I make my daughter go up those streams that we have no idea where they lead to. Those are the forced death by mosquito marches. She loathes me, and look at that face. If you see her in a dark alley, run. That's a middle schooler for you. So when it comes to our visitation, so with all this extra access, our visitation is through the roof. Okay, so look at that trend line. That's from when I started in 2013. Trend line just keeps going up. 2020 obviously was a banner year for you. We're so happy that we could be here for our community when there was nothing else to do. You know, we got a lot of feedback. Like, I've discovered some new parks. So I think that's phenomenal. And yeah, so in 2020 we had over more than 640,000 extra visits. So what's the value of all this green space access? Why does this matter? You know, we're talking about economic development. So research will show that accessible recreation opportunities in green space leads to increased quality of life, which leads to more jobs, more investment, okay? We also know that high quality of life locations attract workers. People want to work near places like this. And lastly, high quality parks and recreation play a pivotal role in attracting and retaining quality businesses. So I want to give you, before I leave today, I want to give you something good to look forward to. I've got that European vacation that I keep pushing off each and every year. Okay, maybe you're in that situation too, but this is definitely something to look forward to coming up here in the next few years, is a 2-mile lakeshore trail that will connect 2 of our parks, Painesville Township Park and Fairport Harbor. And we've got a lot of partners in this endeavor. We're working very hard, led by our phenomenal Paul Pelagi. Yeah, that sounds pretty good, Paul. I'm going to call you the 3 Ps. Phenomenal Paul Pelagi. And we're working very hard with the Lake Development Authority, that's Dave Anderson, along with Lake County, our commissioners Plejnik, Young, and Hamercheck, along with a number of our elected officials, Senator Serino and State Reps Troy, Yuko, and Callender. So we're hoping to make this happen very soon, and no doubt this is going to bring thousands of extra visitors to the Fairport area, which certainly drives economic development and investment in that community. So we're really excited about what this is going to look like. Today and tomorrow's challenge, I don't think anybody in this room, seeing that you're all in business, is going to disagree with me here. It's about having those skilled workers. So I feel confident from Lakeland's position that we are training those skilled workers. And then when it comes to my Lake Metro Parks hat, I think, hey, this is a great place to live. This is a great place to work. I'm really proud of the work that we do. And I've got one last question for you before I get off the stage, and I'm sorry, Sarah, I may have gone a couple extra minutes, but I'm a professor. That's what I do, I talk. You guys are lucky you only got 20 minutes. So I want you to raise your hand if during college you were ever willing to get up at 6 a.m., okay, to go to a breakfast event with a bunch of middle-aged people, and you didn't get any extra credit. So who are the rock star nerds out there that did this? I'm not seeing any hands. I'm seeing my students in the back. My students on the back. Can you give them a round of applause, please? I love you guys. I'm proud of you. Now just make sure you graduate. Okay. So it's a pleasure speaking to you this morning. I will look forward to any questions you have about quality and life in Lake County and the Metro Parks and Lakeland here in a few moments.
Thanks, Gretchen. Those were really awesome remarks. And thanks for the work you do at Lakeland and also in the Metro Parks. My wife's kind of a hiker, and the last couple of years we've decided to try to get to most of the parks around Lake County. And we quickly realized that it was amazing how many places we hadn't been, and now we have to most. But when you get the brochure, I think it's quarterly, the Lake Metro Parks brochure, spring, fall, flip it over and look at all the locations that you can go to. It's phenomenal what they've done over the last several years, the board and Paul and all of his staff. So take advantage of that. It's really fantastic. So thanks, Gretchen, very much. When I got here this morning, I said, I've got Dr. Ted's bio, but, probably all of you have heard it 6 times, and it might sound kind of boring by now, even though it's spectacular. But good news, when I got here, Dr. Ted brought with him a very dear friend of his, Rick Arity, who also works with him at Stewart Title Company, and asked if he could come up and introduce Dr. Ted. So, Rick, could you kind of come on up now and introduce our keynote speaker?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Rick Arity. I am the president of Stewart Title here in the Cleveland, Ohio area. We have 28 employees doing title work and escrow work throughout the state. And the reason why we can afford to bring Dr. Ted Jones here is that we're in business making money for Stewart, and Ted gets to fly around the country and be very popular. And Ted and I go back now about 25 years. North Star represented Stewart as a title agent here since 2001, and at the end of 2020, I sold my business to Ted's company, Stewart Title, and we're now peers rather than agents and underwriters. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud to call Ted a friend. Ted comes to Cleveland a couple times a year and does an economic forecast for our organization in downtown Cleveland, and comes and stays at my house, trashes my kitchen, does all of that, making, Tex-Mex food for us here in Cleveland, Ohio. And we all have heard Ted talk. It is obviously very, very entertaining. I'm not going to go through his bio. It's on your list. But I would just want to welcome Ted as a friend, as now a peer, and enjoy his conversation today. He is quite entertaining.
Wow, by the way, Rick is a good guy, and he's such a good guy. When I stay at his house, I get the man cave, and he stocks my fridge with beer. That's a genuine friend there. All right, so every year I have to come up with a new topic, usually in October for the next year. And last October, I was thinking, what did we do different last year? And I thought, we did old school stuff last year. We stayed at home. We ate at home. We did staycations. Evidently we made so much bread at home that you couldn't buy yeast for 6 months last year. They were out, all that kind of stuff. And of course, I'm old school. I'm 67. And you students don't know what a blackboard is. I know you know what whiteboards are, but we used to have a blackboard with white chalk. Who remembers that? Anyone else my age? Tim, I know you are, and Rick. And so I thought, we always talked about the 3 R's of school, reading, writing, arithmetic. Yeah, R's, there you go. And I thought about the 3 R's that we did last year. And it's continuing, it's changed our lives. We're not going to go back the way we used to be, am I correct, after this pandemic? Reinvent. We reinvented the way we do business. Who in here realized you didn't need an office last year? Yeah, well, like in title business, remote online notarization, digital signatures, that type of thing. Recharge. This is a great economy, folks. Consumers in the United States today have $2.2 trillion more in their bank accounts today than they did 1 year ago. That's massive recharge. In fact, this pandemic, we lost those 22 million plus jobs. Most of those were low-income people who could least afford to lose their jobs. Kind of amazing. And then reignite. This economy's taken off. Have y'all traveled? Did you travel in an airport this year, this summer? Zoo. Absolute zoo. In fact, on the way home today, I'll take my 100th flight this year. But change. Realize this. Every time there's change, there's winners and losers. Now, Rick Arity and I, we're in the title insurance business, and the housing business is hotter than heck. That was a big winner last year, am I correct? Who are the losers? Leisure and hospitality. Leisure and hospitality, and then leisure and hospitality, am I right? You think about those things. One of my neighbors is Johnny Crabba. Who's ever been to Johnny Crabba's? It's it's an Italian chain that came out of Texas all over the country. This picture, About a month ago, I was in Winter Park, Florida. It's just kind of the really ritzy part of Orlando, so to speak. And I walked across my hotel, this Carrabba's, and they have 10 parking spots there just for takeout. So I go inside, and the restaurant's completely packed. And you can see these takeout slots. So I go sit at the bar because it's the only seat available. I'm talking to the barman. He's also the manager. And I says, I know I'm friends with Johnny Carrabba. He says, sure you are. I says, call him and ask. He says, I don't have his number. So I said, here it is. Anyway, so I texted Johnny, and he texted back, and he told the guy, give Ted a beer. So it all worked out, guys. And then I asked him, I said, how is business? He said, we this month are getting the highest sales per day inside the restaurant. And the 10 drive-up slots turn every 6 minutes. And we're selling more on the takeout than we're selling inside the restaurant. Y'all been to a P.F. Chang's? Yeah. Did you know P.F. Chang's this summer is opening 50 new takeout-only restaurants, not a seat in the place? Like takeout pizza, like Domino's. How about that? Things have changed. 2020 was the year of the pandemic. I don't know about y'all. This is what it looked like. The pandemic, this is good visualization. It erupted. It caught more people than we thought, and it's still here. And guys, this is a virus. The cold's still here. The flu's still here. COVID's still going to be here, guys. It is what it is. I don't know about y'all, but I've had enough of the pandemic. Anyone else had enough of that? So I decided that 2021 is the year of the taco, because it's my favorite food. But think about it. It's finger food, and you drink tequila and beer with it. Is there anything better? The answer is no. In fact, well, not just beef tacos. Those are black and shrimp tacos, cabbage slaw, and fresh sliced jalapenos. Who wants one of those right now? Yeah. My wife makes, these are tacos from New Mexico, red chili. My wife, she grew up on a cattle ranch in Uray, Colorado. Every year when I come back from Denver on one of the trips, I have to bring her a 20-pound sack of Colorado pinto beans because they taste different. That's her pinto bean tacos with fresh diced jalapenos. Who wants to come to my place and have some bean tacos? Yeah. You didn't know. How many realtors in here? Realtors? Gotta have some. Yeah. Did you know Taco sells houses? Look at this. $250 of free tacos to purchase this home. Okay, it's Houston, Texas. This one, 100 free tacos will purchase this home. It's North Dakota. That's what they say it up there. This one will blow you away. Free tacos to purchase home. That's Pittsburgh. You think they have cheesesteak sandwiches? No, they understand that tacos sell. Okay, quiz time. Number one, 560. What does it mean? Not your 440, Sarah. Not your 440. Right, your company. I got to ask you 440 versus 420. I don't know. 440. We're in the 440. Okay. What does 560 stand for then? It's the number of days this pandemic's been going, guys. Oh, so let's talk about this. Here's the forecast for this year. GDP. We haven't had a 4% GDP growth rate since the early 1980s. Look at these. Look at how strong this GDP growth is. A lot of that's government spending. Oh, ask me, do I believe we need an infrastructure plan, and do I believe we need the $3.5 trillion plan? My answer is, who's going to do the jobs? You got 10.9 million open positions right now. If you have those other plans, where are those people going to come from? Y'all, you ever think about that? My biggest concern is if you have those two new plans, you're just going to make inflation that much worse. Here's takeaways. Number one, and this is for 2022. Housing has the highest intrinsic value in our lifetimes because we spent more time in our home than any time in history for us. And therefore, your house or your apartment even impacted your quality of life and lifestyle more than it ever had before. That's kind of continuing. And we're seeing these waves come through, and all of a sudden we retreat to our homes or dock to your basement. Yeah, think about that. This pandemic accelerated pre-existing trends. We already were buying e-commerce, we just bought a lot more. We already had people moving out of California to the Southwest. We just moved a lot more. We already had people leaving the Northeast, and let me get this. You got Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, all going to Florida in the Sun Belt. This accelerated that, am I correct? Oh, and people like me, mind you, I have a beautiful office on the same floor as the CEO. We're traded on the New York Stock Exchange, a Fortune 1000 company. I don't need an office. But y'all learned you didn't either. That's a trend that accelerated. They say if you do the same thing for 66 days in a row on average, you have a new habit. 560 guys. We have new habits. Refi, any lenders in the room? Lenders, residential lenders? Got to have some in here. Well, I got bankers in here, so that's the same thing. Refi is going away because rates are going to go up. The big winner last year in real estate was industrial properties and multifamily. In fact, did you know we sold more apartments in the fourth quarter last year in the United States than any quarter in history? Industrial, everything you buy that doesn't come from a retail storefront comes from an industrial building. Oh, and let's talk apartments real quick. How many of y'all follow me on Twitter? Ooh, this is good. If you don't, you need to. DRTCJ. Since the first of this year, apartment rents are up a staggering 13.8%. Wow. Rents on newly signed apartments, in other words, tenant moves out or gets evicted, because you can do that now if they don't pay their rent. That new tenant coming in on average pays 17% more. Wow. You just have to understand how hot housing is. We had 3.5 million people not paying their rent for their houses or apartments. Goldman says only about 750,000 of those will be evicted. Now, I have to tell you, I've been an investor in a pool. We own some apartments. It kind of really bothered me. We have a tenant that says to you, I can't pay my rent, and they just bought a new $83,000 dually. Does that bother anyone else in here? We have our priorities wrong, guys. Jobs are everything. What I want you to look at the dip on the left to begin with. That's the great trough of the Great Recession. Lost 8 million jobs from 2008 to 2010. We added all those jobs. We lost every job numerically we added since the bottom of the Great Recession in 40 days last year. Now, the good news is a lot of those have come back. Bad news is some of them are never going to come back because we've reinvented how we do business. I'll talk to you more about that. Now, I show you this slide every year, and I'm going to show it to you again. Each year, the Tax Foundation does a great big study. They look at 5 taxes: corporate income tax, personal income tax, retail sales tax, unemployment tax, and property tax. And they rank all 50 states. Good news is, well, I don't know if you want to call this good or not. Good news is there's 11 states worse than you. Bad news is you're 39th, which means there's 38 states better than you business-wise to do taxes in. And for the Economic Development Foundation here, guys, that's an uphill, that's a headwind. And it's not your headwind. It's the state and the way you do business, but it is a headwind because a lot of states, 7 states have no income taxes whatsoever. Top outbound states last year, in other words, United Van Lines moved more people out of these 10 states than these states. Yes, Ohio is on that list. A lot of that's taxes, folks. I'm going to tell you that right now. Tennessee, one of those 7 states that doesn't have it. Here's the inbound states: Idaho. Every California that's not moving to the Southwest is moving to Idaho. I'm not kidding you. Look at these states. Of course, Cleveland, I'll get down to Lake County here in a second. Remember how we lost every job added since the Great Recession? Y'all lost every job and more. Y'all see that? The dip was below the trough. Part of that's the type of jobs you have. Leisure and hospitality, yeah, it's somewhat, but because that was a hard to hit sector. But notice that red line there as of August. Cleveland's not bringing back any more jobs. We stagnated. Oh, the economy hadn't stagnated. Just you have fewer people doing more than they ever have before. Who thinks I'm right on that? Yeah. Oh, and then here's Lake County. Now, notice the difference between Cleveland, who's flatline. Y'all are still recovering. Do you see that? You're different. You know what that says? It says your economic development's paying off. I do believe that because it doesn't happen by itself because there's too many great places to go to. In fact, I think anytime a business form, they are looking for a place not to happen at. Not necessarily the absolute best place, but I'm not going to do there because this or not going to do there because that. It's kind of like the girls that I used to date in high school. They're like, I'm not dating you because of this or that or anything else like that. Home sales, U.S., most home sales we've seen in 14 years. That's that black line. The green bars, read it on the left, that's median home prices, highest home prices in history. Oh, and I had forecast we were going to sell more homes last year in 2020. Everyone else thought I was nuts because they thought we would sell a lot fewer homes. But what I didn't forecast is we selling a lot more high-end homes. Look at this. This is July numbers. We're selling 60% more $1 million plus homes this July than in July a year ago. Wow. And of course, part of that is low interest rates. Banker and I were just talking here. How do you even make a profit because money's so cheap? It's kind of, don't worry, rates are coming back, they're going up. Now this is the Cleveland Mesa, which you're part of. Y'all are selling, remember I told you US most home sales in 14 years? You're selling the most homes in history here. You've never sold this many homes. Oh, and people don't buy a home here thinking they're going to move out next week or next year. What this says is people are investing in their community. But median prices, you can take a look at that, are jumping up quite a bit. Home sales, the pink is this year, the yellow is last year, the green is the year before that. We're not going to compare it to last year. Last year was an anomaly. But look, every one of the pinks in June, July are higher than they were in 2019. So your home sales are hanging in there. And that's good news. Part of the reason that housing is so hot right now is we're seeing the lowest interest rates in history. This year we got down to 2.65%. 30-year fixed rate loans today average in the U.S. 2.86%. My goodness. You young people, y'all need to understand this. When I was a professor at Texas A&M in 1989, my wife and I built a new home, had it built for us. And I remember closing in November of '89, and I was thrilled. Walked out of that bank, and I had a 30-year 9.75%. And that's the first time it's been below 10% in over a decade. Yeah, things are different. Things change. Where are interest rates going to go? Well, nobody knows. Fannie Mae says rates are going to remain flat. MBA says they're going to go from 2.8% last year to 3.3% this next year and 4.2% the year after. And Fannie Mae says, nope, flat. I think they're going up. I can name 3 things that cost less today than a year ago. One of them is hand sanitizer. One of them is toilet paper, right? You think about that. Now, here's the gotcha, and this is what I'm telling y'all. Interest rates are going up. The Federal Reserve has already said, we're going to stop this. The way it works today, Doc, you're going to be my banker. Oh, my banker's going to be my banker here. There we go. So I'm the Fed, and I go to this banker, and I say to him, I want to buy any treasuries you have and any mortgage-backed securities you have, any mortgages. So he gives me that, and we give him cash. Now, he's got all this cash to loan out again. So he's flush with cash. And that's one of the reasons that interest rates have stayed so low is he has more cash needs. You even mentioned that to me. You got too many deposits, wonder what the heck do we do with them? Because there's no place to invest them safely at any risk, at any yield. Well, the Fed says they're going to stop that. We've been buying $120 billion a month. And when the Fed stops that, that's called the taper. And when all of a sudden he doesn't have all that cash, then interest rates go up. And that's going to happen this year, folks. So I'm telling you, rates are going up. Home sales, bottom left-hand corner. Again, Fannie and Freddie can't agree. Fannie and the MBA can't agree. Next year, Fannie Mae says home sales down 3%. MBA says up 6%. Y'all understand that no one is looking through the same colored glasses. I don't know that we've ever seen this much uncertainty in this type of economy where you have 2 great sources diverging views. Home values. Next year, Fannie Mae says they go up 8%. MBA says they go down 4%. If interest rates go up too much, I guarantee you home values will drop, particularly for when those are a month. So no students, that's not your score for showing up here today. That's my biggest concern. My biggest concern is housing affordability. Everything I just told you, housing affordability. Well, just look at these numbers. Since 2010, our incomes have gone up 14.2% and home prices have gone up 153%. That is unsustainable. Oh, and what you're getting is you're getting the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer because a house is typically a household's largest single store of wealth. And if you can't afford a house, you don't get to play that game. And that to me is a major concern. Oh, and then bottom right-hand corner, what all this does is it says if Fannie Mae is correct on interest rates and home prices, then our payments, monthly payments from 2020 till next year would have gone up 26%. If the MBA is correct, they go up 32%. Our incomes aren't going up anywhere near that, are they? So that affordability is just getting worse. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I told you up front, we're not going to get all these jobs back. We don't need them anymore. And I'm going to show you why. And I'm going to use oil and gas as an example, but I'm not talking about the oil and gas business. I'm telling you how business America is performing under these adverse conditions. Because I don't know what your commodity prices did, what your prices did last year, but oil and gas was plastered. Look at these oil prices. Imagine if this were your business and this is your revenue stream. How would you exist? Particularly when, like oil and gas, it requires, like the doc said, great capital investment to do that, millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. So here's what the oil and gas industry did. Back in 2014, oil prices averaged $93 a barrel. We produced 8.8 million barrels, and we had 525,000 people in that industry. By 2020, 6 years later, oil prices had dropped 58%. Let's round it off to 60%. We produced 30% more. You had to cover your fixed costs. And we did all that with 40% fewer workers. Now think what I just said. We're producing 30% more oil with 40% fewer workers. I guarantee you every business in America is doing that as we speak. Who thinks I'm right? Yeah. And that's why we just aren't going to need as many jobs. Oh, and we're doing all that with 76% fewer drilling rigs because we've changed our technology. We've changed the way we do business. Oh, and you speak of technology. You can ask, why is real estate economist tweeting about artificial intelligence and technology? Because last time I tweeted this, Elon Musk retweeted it. That went to 5.6 million people. That's why. I know Elon actually personally. Get this one. 2020 survey said that 43% of companies plan to invest in technology and reduce their workforce. That's the scary part, because it's people that have made the difference up to now, and all of a sudden technology is coming into play. One of the reasons we've seen the lowest interest rates is we've seen the highest credit scores in history. Because people, remember that 2.2 trillion more money I talked about? Y'all realize since the first of this year, Americans have paid off down their credit card balances $157 billion. Oh, that means my bank's going to get $25 billion less in interest payments this year on credit cards. That means consumers are going to have another extra $25 billion they otherwise wouldn't have had they not done that. This has been a great healing time for the economy for those that kept their jobs. Leisure and hospitality is hardest hit, but it's coming back. It's good news, folks. Shoot, just like that Carrabba's, when you can't even get into a parking spot for 6-minute takeout service, it tells you how hot this sector is. Airplanes. Man, I tell you what, this summer, I don't think there was one airplane I was on that had an empty seat. Every seat was full. We changed the way we do business, guys. We've got to talk about minimum wages, and I'm going to talk about it economically speaking. First of all, ask me, am I in favor of minimum wages, federal minimum wage across the country? My answer is no, but not for the reason you think. If you really think you need a minimum wage to help people, then that minimum wage should vary from one community to the next because the cost of living varies. I was in McAllen, Texas about a month and a half ago, and I think many people there could live on $15 an hour. You want to live on $15 an hour in New York City or Chicago or Seattle or LA or Miami? Can't do it. So if you're going to have a minimum wage, it should be reflective of local conditions. That said, the Congressional Budget Office did a study, and they said, here's good news. If we were to create a $15 per hour minimum wage, you'll lift 900,000 people out of poverty. That's great news. Bravo. You'll also eliminate 1.4 million jobs. I had a guy about 2 months ago. He said, he called me bull on that one. He says, minimum wage increase will not eliminate one job. So I popped in this next slide. Seattle was the first city in the U.S. to go to a $15 per hour minimum wage. Every fast food restaurant, including all those, this is a SeaTac airport. Every fast food restaurant put in self-order, self-cashier stands and eliminated all the counter staff. Oh, and if you can you self-order and you have to pay using a credit card, PayPal, or Apple Pay, that's all they accept. Cash is no longer allowed at these restaurants at the airport. Is that amazing too? So I went and saw the manager. And I said, how many people did you lay off at this location in this airport? He said, 42. And then he said, and wait till our automated French fryers come in next month. It'll be more. At some point in time, if you pay people too much, you will find an alternative to replace them. Who thinks I'm right? And we're seeing that. We need to be really careful with this stuff, guys. Oh, real retail services, retail and food services, we are buying more stuff and eating out more. Get this one. This is a major number. And remember, 70% of GDP is this, and that's why I'm telling you we're going to have another great year of economy. You got 12 more months, guys, and then we'll call it after that. E-commerce sales jumped, but then they kind of fizzled off. I know why they fizzled off. Doc, you kind of alluded to it. Shoot, if my wife couldn't have gone shopping during this COVID thing, we wouldn't be married anymore. Am I correct? Just get out of the house. By the way, I went to work every day if I wasn't on the road, and so I went to the office. There were 5 of us in 15,000 square feet. Commercial real estate sales plunged, and they came back. And then they came back in the fourth quarter this year. They almost returned to where they were this past year. And we thought, wow, commercial real estate's back, but be careful when you say that. Because remember, mid-November, we learned that Vice President Biden was going to be President Biden, and President Biden campaigned on a 43% capital gains rate, up from 23.8%. Y'all familiar with this? And what happens if the taxes would double on every time you sold a property that you made money on? You would sell it less frequently. And if you tax it more, it's worth less. Values would have declined somewhat. So we actually saw people that were going to sell properties in the first and second quarter this year, pull them back into last year just to make sure they didn't have to pay those new increased taxes. And we still don't know what those taxes are going to be. They may not increase at all. But I don't know about y'all, but I am sick of anyone, well, not anyone. I'm sick if you're a Republican or Democrat, because I've had enough of politics. Anyone else with me on this one? And that's because we have a bunch of politicians and not leaders. We got to have leaders. Cleveland sales, actually, your commercial real estate sales, except for that one spike out there back in 2019, have held their own pretty well, pretty doggone well. Last concern I'm going to throw out to y'all, federal debt. And here's my concern. We have to borrow money to make our interest payments on the debt today. And our debt today costs us 1.2% per year. That's what we're borrowing at. I can remember when 30-year treasuries were yielding 17%. Now, I'm not going to tell you we're going back to 17%, but if you have to borrow money at 1.2% and debt goes up every year, you can see this is the forecast, and you don't have the money to pay it today at 1.2%, what happens when it hits 5%? Then you're going to have to cut some government programs. Kind of amazing. Stock market's insane. Anyone else want to agree with me? Oh, this is one of the reasons I love overweight in real estate. Now, I got Tesla up here, and I'm not talking about the company Tesla. I'm talking about what people pay for the Tesla stock. That's the stock market. Actually, I think Tesla's one of the most innovative vehicles I've seen in my lifetime. Do I own one? No. I live in Texas. Well, and you got to hear the rest of the story. It is not uncommon for me to leave really early in the morning, do the 4.5-hour drive to Dallas or Austin or San Antonio or my dad's ranch, work for 6 or 8 hours and drive home. I can't do that in a Tesla because the duration and the recharging time would cut into it. Now, last year, Tesla around the globe made almost and sold almost 500,000 vehicles. Total new car sales in the world last year were over 70 million, but Tesla only represented 500,000, 0.7%. But when I tell you people are paying stupid stock prices for some companies, this is the market cap as of December 31st. Market cap simply the closing stock price times the number of shares outstanding in stock. Tesla on December 31st last year was worth $669 billion. The combined market cap of Toyota, Volkswagen, Daimler, GM, BMW, Honda, Ford, and Fiat was less valuable than Tesla. That's insane. Well, and also remember, those companies on the right, they sold 4 times as many all-electric vehicles than Tesla sold, so it's just not all the electric vehicle things. Here's my forecast of the stock market. I think the stock market sometime in the next 30 months is going to drop 20 to 30%. Not every stock's going to drop, but some will. Most will, on average. That's my forecast. And that's why I love real estate. Love real estate because it typically performs well under inflation. 3 R's. Travel's coming back, guys. Go back to the 3 R's. Reignite, the last one. 10.9 million job openings. Change will continue. Changes cause winners and losers. Winners and losers. Every time you have change, there's a winner and loser. Great America reopening continues, guys. But this pandemic is not done. I tweet, I blog, I hope you all follow me. Oh, change isn't always bad, guys. 2010, that's those micro SD chips, 64 megabytes. 2020, 64 gigabytes. The 64 gigabytes cost half as much as the one in 2010, which is 1/10 of the capacity. Y'all think about this. All right, with that, there's this great restaurant in Austin, Texas, El Arroyo. And this, you've probably seen their signs, right? Y'all have seen their signs, right? This one, I have permission to use this, copyrighted. Dear taco trucks, please consider driving the neighborhoods like ice cream trucks. To that I say amen, bring them on. With that, folks, Q&A time. Great to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Ted. Obviously, as always, informative and fun, and I think we all learned a lot. So Gretchen's coming up. Dr. Ted's going to stay up here. We've got some board members that are going around picking up any of the questions you may have. And then Tim is going to come up and present the questions. Thank you.
All right, like Tim mentioned, all of our board members are going around. If you have any questions, please feel free. We do have one here for Dr. Ted. Do you feel we will have another housing bubble since houses are selling over asking price and people may end up upside down?
So here's my thing about housing. If you go back to 2010, and we'll just go from there forward. If you look at the total number of new jobs we created, the total number of new dwelling units, whether apartments or houses, I've always said you need 1.25 to 1.5 new jobs per new dwelling unit, which means right now we're about 4.6 million to 7.2 million homes short. So that means demand is bigger than supply. You have pent-up demand, which means, no, I don't think we're going to have another housing bubble. Now, there are markets where we're seeing declining home values. Go to Trenton, New Jersey. First of all, I don't know why anyone lived in New Jersey in the first place. But particularly where people are moving out, we're seeing some declining values. But no, we don't have a housing bubble.
All right, this is an interesting one. I'll have both of you answer this one. So this individual has a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. So their question is, what are the best job opportunities 20 years from now, projecting for their kids in the next 20 years? So I'll open up to both of you.
All right. So I'll go for this one. In fact, I often tweet about these, like the 10 best job growth in the next 10 years. But I will tell you this, fundamentally, today, if you don't have the STEM classes, science, technology, engineering, and math, you just cut yourself out of half of the highest paying jobs in existence. So I'm going to tell you this, I would push any student today to max out any of the STEM skill sets. And yeah, calculus, there is a reason for it, Doc. I had to say that.
I would add to that, and I'm training my kids to be future entrepreneurs. I think that's incredibly, incredibly important. And they say in my field, we're training our students for jobs that we don't even know exist, but I know that entrepreneurs are always going to be the base of our economy.
Sounds good. Dr. Ted, this one's for you. The question is, will we ever fully be able to fully depend on electric vehicles?
We got a real problem. Because of time, I didn't include this in here. We have this illusion that electric vehicles are the cure-all, do-all for the environment. Now, first of all, do I believe in global warming? The answer is yes, I do. But do I believe it's man-caused? The answer is no, I don't. But listen to this. We've had 5 ice ages in the last 1,000,000 years. We weren't here. What, was that dinosaur breath that caused all that carbon dioxide? How did the whole world freeze up and then melt down when we weren't here? And the answer is the Australian physicists are saying that part of that is just the Earth axis as it tilts, it warms and it cools. And they think, at least Australian physicists and some European physicists now too, that carbon dioxide emissions may not do anything. But that said, let's talk about it. Almost everyone in this room, and I got to reach in my pocket, has got one of these cell phones, right? Lithium-ion batteries, and that's exactly what's in every electric vehicle. Oh, and if you think it's a great big battery in an electric vehicle, it's a bunch of real fat AA batteries. I've been in the Gigafactory in Reno, Tesla's Gigafactory. By the way, side note, all the batteries made in the Gigafactory are built by Panasonic. And so the only reason I know that the Tesla has all these little batteries in it is I came across a record there's a couple jillion of these batteries down the road. And here's the problem though. For every pound of lithium ion battery that you have to make, just to get enough lithium for that 1 pound of battery, you got to move between 50 and 100 pounds of earth. All right? So you think, well, that's no big deal, but that's just for a pound of lithium ion batteries. So let me tell you about battery technology. A single barrel of oil, it's 42 gallons, weighs 300 pounds. Today it sells for $68. You can buy an empty barrel to store it in for $20. I hope y'all can appreciate the density of energy in a barrel of oil. It's actually phenomenal how much energy there is. To store the same amount of energy in a battery that 1 barrel of oil contains would require over 20,000 pounds of lithium-ion batteries. Over 10 tons. Those batteries are worth about $200,000 to store the equivalent of 1 barrel of oil. The problem is, to make those batteries store 1 barrel of oil, you're going to have to move between 500 to 1,000 tons of earth to get the lithium just to make the lithium-ion batteries. Have you ever seen any, remember I just told you we're going to move 500 to 1,000 tons of earth. Have you ever seen a bulldozer or a loader that ran on solar panels? They're all running on fossil fuels. So one of the estimates is that you really need to drive, like any electric vehicle, at least 60,000 miles on completely renewable energy just to offset the carbon dioxide you emitted to make the batteries. So yeah, we don't think of those kind of things. Oh, and lastly, in that gigafactory, nice about wind and solar, right? The wind doesn't always blow and the sun doesn't always shine. Y'all heard this past week in Europe they've had no wind. Therefore, none of their wind farms have produced any electricity. They have a massive shortage of electricity. So you need batteries. Guys, if we took every battery out of the Reno gigafactory that was built in a year and we stacked them up and we hooked them up to the power grid, we could run the US for 3 minutes. And if you wanted to store enough power to run the US for 2 days, you'd have to run that gigafactory for 1,000 years. So we got to look at the realistic thing on these things. So I'm not I think it's great technology. If you think you're saving the world, you may not be, because a lot of electric vehicles won't make 60,000 miles. And that means you will never offset the carbon that was released just to create the batteries.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. So this will be for Dr. Gretchen. You know, we're all here because we have a vested interest in Lake County, and you're involved in so many different aspects of the county. How do we differentiate ourselves? We know what we have, but you have 200 ambassadors here that talk to a lot of different people. You know, what would you say to a family looking for some place to move or a business looking to start? Why Lake County?
I would definitely say it's because of all the people in this room. I mean, I've been working with a lot of you since 1998, and it's us that make this a wonderful community, us coming together, the partnerships that we have, the commitment that we have to work together to make this a wonderful community. And you don't have that everywhere, trust me. I sit on a lot of different groups, and we're working together as a team, and we're not backstabbing each other. That's really how we're going to get ahead, and we need to continue to do that, and I would challenge all of us to up the ante. What more partnerships could we create to create an even better community here? I hope that answers your question. So it's a challenge for all of you.
That's good. Actually, we have one more question here, and it just says Bitcoin. So we'll open it up to what's the role of cryptocurrency in our economy today?
So first of all, the theory of any cryptocurrency is pretty brilliant. Let's be honest. Every time you do a financial transaction, there's a significant transaction cost that goes with it. If you're a retail merchant, you understand this. Someone buys $100 worth of goods, they use their credit card. The merchant only gets $96 typically out of that, maybe 97. So 3% went to the credit card company for handling that. So the theory of a currency that would be transaction cost free, we call those net leaks in an economic system, is ideal. The problem is, while blockchain is another great theoretical tool, I heard this quote last week in Phoenix, blockchain technology is a solution for a problem that doesn't exist because it's so expensive. my company, Stewart Title and Fannie Mae, we created a blockchain company. And we got this blockchain company. We figured that'd be great for title insurance. It is so expensive. The other alternatives to doing it were cheaper. So we sold our product, we and Fannie Mae, to ICE. They own the New York Stock Exchange. And when I was in New York just a couple weeks ago, I asked them, how's that going for you guys? And they said, we got a problem because we don't have any problems that this solution works. And so while cryptocurrency is ideal, also I have to tell you all, there is no faith of the United States government behind any cryptocurrency. And the guy that predicted the housing bubble in 2008 has predicted he thinks that the cryptocurrencies will go to zero. No one wants to touch that one, huh? So, while it's a great technology and it's neat to see, it is completely built on speculation because there's nothing behind it.
All right, if we don't have any more questions, Tim and Sarah, you want to make any closing remarks?
Thanks, Tim, and thanks for the questions. And I sincerely want to thank Dr. Ted and Gretchen for spending the morning with us here, sharing their insights, taking the time to put the presentations together. I think they were all very insightful, and I think we all learned something. And it's just great to stand up here and look and see all those faces. So thanks for being here. Have a great day, and we'll see you next year.
With that being said, just a quick thank you to Gretchen and Dr. Ted. These beautiful flowers are for
I never get flowers, thank you.
Dr. Gretchen Skok Disanto. That's for you.
Shame on my husband, Dino.
That's for you. Thank you all for being here today. Have a great morning and rest of your day.